For weeks, I had been dreaming about our 20th wedding anniversary. It wasn't just any milestone. It was a celebration of 2 decades filled with memories, laughter, and yes, even the challenges we'd faced together. I wanted this night to be perfect. I booked a table at the quaint little bistro on Main Street, where James and I had our very first date. The place where sparks first flew, and promises were whispered over candlelight. The air there always smelled faintly of fresh basil and roasted garlic, a comforting scent that instantly brought me back to those early days. I carefully picked out my outfit, a soft navy blue dress that hugged my figure just right, neither too tight nor too loose. The kind of dress that made me feel elegant and confident. I'd spent the afternoon styling my hair, letting loose, soft curls fall around my shoulders. We arranged for the kids to spend the night at their cousins', turning our home into a quiet sanctuary for just the 2 of us. The thermostat was set to a cozy 72 degrees, warm enough to chase away the crisp fall air outside, but cool enough to feel comfortable. I imagined the scene perfectly. Walking into the candlelit bistro, James greeting me with that charming smile I still loved, holding my hand across the table as we reminisced about the life we'd built. I pictured us clinking glasses of Pinot Noir, laughter filling the space between us as we shared stories and dreams for the future. This wasn't just about a dinner date. It was about reconnecting, about remembering why we said "I do" all those years ago. It was about celebrating us. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, and I stepped through the front door that evening, all those dreams came crashing down. The house was silent. No sign of James. No warmth. Just the cold hum of an empty home. And in that moment, the perfect anniversary I had imagined slipped through my fingers like sand. As the evening grew darker, the weight of James's absence settled over me like a thick fog. I paced the quiet living room, every creak of the old wooden floor amplifying my growing unease. My phone buzzed. A message from his sister, Liz. He had to leave town suddenly for a business emergency. Sorry. Business emergency. Just like that, my heart sank. No call, no personal explanation. Only a curt text that felt colder than the autumn chill outside. I tried to tell myself it was just bad timing, a sudden crisis that couldn't wait. But as the minutes stretched into hours, hope began to fade. The house, once filled with the hum of our life together, felt like a stranger's place. The thermostat stubbornly stuck at 60 degrees, the cool air wrapping around me like an unwelcome reminder of his absence. I poured a cup of chamomile tea, but the warmth barely touched my trembling hands. Over the next 2 days, I called and texted relentlessly, but every attempt was met with silence or vague excuses. Finally, James's voice came through the line, distant and distracted. "I'm sorry, Carol. This trip's been hectic. I'm at a hotel downtown." Downtown? Not with me. Not on our anniversary. His words cut deeper than any slap or harsh fight. What about us? Our plans. There was only a pause before he whispered, "I can't do this right now." I hung up, feeling the brittle cracks of my world splintering, and in that quiet shattering, a new, painful truth began to emerge. This was no emergency. It was a goodbye disguised in business calls and hotel bills. The message from Liz blinked on my phone screen again. He had to leave town suddenly for a business emergency. Sorry. Those words felt like a cold draft slipping through the cracks of my carefully constructed world. No call, no reassurance, just a terse text that offered no comfort, only confusion. I stared at the screen, my fingers trembling as I reread the message. Business emergency? What kind of emergency didn't warrant a phone call? I wanted to believe Liz was telling the truth, that James was caught up in something urgent and unavoidable. But my heart whispered a darker suspicion. "Liz," I typed, hesitating before hitting send, "can you please tell me what's really going on? James hasn't returned my calls." Minutes passed. My breath caught when another message arrived, this time shorter, colder. "Sorry, Carol. That's all I know." The silence that followed was deafening. The house felt empty in a way I'd never known before. No laughter, no footsteps, no comforting presence. I sat on the edge of the couch, clutching my phone like a lifeline. Memories of our years together, our first date, the kids' laughter, the late-night talks, flooded my mind, twisting into a painful ache. I thought about the countless plans we'd made for this anniversary. The soft navy dress waiting in the closet. The quiet excitement I'd felt just days before. Now, all I had was uncertainty. Later that night, I found myself scrolling through social media, my heart sinking. Pictures surfaced. James smiling on a sunlit Miami beach, dining with someone named Sarah. None of it included me. I pressed my phone to my chest, a mix of betrayal and heartbreak washing over me. Liz's vague messages were the only clues, but they only deepened the mystery and my growing sense of abandonment. 2 days passed like slow-moving shadows before James finally called. My phone buzzed in the quiet of the morning, and I hesitated before answering. The moment I heard his voice, a mix of relief and pain tangled inside me. "Hey, Carol," he said, his tone distant and distracted, as if he were miles away. Not just physically, but emotionally too. "I'm sorry I couldn't call sooner. This trip, it's been crazier than I expected." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Where are you now?" He sighed. "Downtown, at a hotel." The word hotel echoed coldly in my ears. "What about our anniversary plans? The dinner? The celebration?" There was a long pause. I could almost hear him struggling on the other end. "Look, Carol, I'm sorry. I just can't do this right now." The weight of his words crushed me. Can't do what? Celebrate with me? Talk? Be here? I don't know. His voice wavered, a flicker of vulnerability slipping through the cold facade. "I'm sorry." Tears pricked my eyes, but I held them back. "When will you be back?" "I don't know yet. Things are complicated." The line went silent. I imagined him staring out the hotel window, disconnected from the life we'd built together. I hung up, clutching the phone like a lifeline that had just slipped from my grasp. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I scrolled through my bank app, my heart sinking as I spotted a string of charges from a Miami hotel. Dinners, room service, even tickets for a show. And then the photos on social media. James laughing, sunlit beaches, someone named Sarah. I sat there, the silence in my home louder than ever, and realized the truth I'd been too afraid to face. The truth hit me like a freight train. I was sitting alone in our quiet living room, the soft hum of the ceiling fan the only sound as I scrolled through my phone. The screen glowed with images I wasn't prepared to see. Pictures of James, not with me, but with someone else. There they were, sunlit beaches in Miami, his arm around a woman named Sarah, both smiling, laughing as if the world belonged to them alone. Dates matched perfectly with the time he'd said was a business emergency. My fingers trembled as I traced the images, disbelief crashing into betrayal. The credit card charges told the same story: hotel stays, dinners, late-night excursions. None of it shared with me. None of it is real, except the cold reality sinking deep into my bones. I remembered the silence of that night, the chill of the empty house, the thermostat set to 60 degrees as if to freeze out any warmth. The excuses, the vague messages from his sister Liz, none of it made sense anymore. My heart ached, but beneath the pain, something else stirred, a fierce clarity. I wasn't blind anymore. The mask had slipped, revealing the cruel truth hidden beneath years of promises and smiles. I wrapped myself in a shawl, clutching it as if it could shield me from the storm of emotions inside. The betrayal was more than infidelity. It was the shattering of a life I'd thought was secure, a love I had believed in. That evening, I sat quietly, letting the tears come, knowing that nothing would ever be the same. But as the sorrow washed over me, a small spark of strength flickered inside, the beginning of my own story, one where I would choose myself. The house felt unbearably empty. The silence wrapped around me like a heavy fog, each creak of the floorboards echoing my loneliness. The cozy glow of the living room lamps, once a comfort, now only highlighted the absence of his presence. I sank into the worn armchair, clutching a cup of lukewarm tea, its heat fading too quickly, much like the warmth I used to feel in our home. The shadows on the walls seemed to stretch longer as the night deepened, mirroring the ache in my chest that refused to subside. Memories flooded in, laughter shared over morning coffee, quiet conversations by the fireplace, the gentle brush of his hand against mine, all replaced now by an unbearable void, a reminder that I was alone in this story. My phone sat on the table, silent except for the occasional buzzing of messages that I wasn't ready to read. Friends and family's well-meaning texts felt distant, unable to reach the hollow place where trust once lived. Tears slipped quietly down my cheeks, and I let them fall without shame. It was okay to feel broken, I told myself. It was okay to grieve the future I had imagined but would never have. But beneath the sorrow, a quiet resilience began to grow. This solitude, painful as it was, became a mirror reflecting who I was beneath the layers of doubt and hurt. The woman who had weathered storms before, the one who had learned to rise again. For the first time in a long while, I whispered to the empty room, "I'm still here, and I will find my way." Just as the weight of loneliness threatened to swallow me whole, my phone buzzed with a message from Marcia, an old friend who knew more than anyone about heartbreak and healing. "You're not alone, Carol. This isn't your fault, and it's never too late to find your happiness." Her words felt like a lifeline thrown across the stormy sea of my emotions. I stared at the screen, tears blurring the words, but inside a tiny spark flickered, a reminder that I didn't have to walk this path alone. The next morning I called her. Her voice was gentle, steady, a balm to my aching soul. "Start with you," she said simply. "Remember who you are, not who you've been told to be." Her encouragement pushed me out of the dark. I signed up for yoga classes at the community center, dusted off my neglected paintbrushes, and allowed myself to dream again. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Fragile but real. With friends like Marcia by my side, maybe, just maybe, I could begin to reclaim the life I thought I'd lost forever. With Marcia's support, I began to take small steps toward reclaiming the woman I'd almost forgotten. The first day I walked into the community center for yoga, my heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement. The room was filled with women of all ages, each carrying their own stories, their own battles. As I moved through the gentle stretches, I felt a release, not just in my body, but in my spirit. Dusting off my old paintbrushes became a quiet rebellion against the life that had tried to confine me. I set up a small corner by the window in my house, where sunlight spilled onto blank canvases waiting to be filled. With every stroke, I poured out the pain, the anger, and slowly, the hope. I found myself laughing more, connecting with friends again, and embracing the freedom to make choices just for me. For the first time in years, I wasn't just someone's wife or mother. I was Carol, a woman rediscovering her passions and strengths. One afternoon, as I painted the delicate petals of blooming hydrangeas outside my studio window, my phone buzzed. It was James. "Carol, can we talk?" His voice was hesitant, distant. I stared at the canvas, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin. "I don't think so," I said softly, a smile touching my lips. "But I miss us. Maybe you miss the idea of us. I'm starting to remember who I am, and I like her." I hung up and walked outside, breathing in the fresh air, ready to step into the next chapter of my life, stronger, wiser, and truly free. The phone vibrated on the kitchen counter, jolting me from my thoughts. I hesitated, staring at the screen as the name James blinked in bold letters. For months, his silence had been deafening. The void he left more painful than any words could explain. Slowly, I picked up. "Carol." His voice came through, strained, distant, and heavy with regret. I didn't say anything at first. Just let him speak. "I know I've been absent. More than absent," he admitted, his voice cracking. "Leaving on our anniversary. Not answering your calls. I was selfish. I'm sorry. Truly." His apology felt like a fragile thread, barely holding together the wreckage of what was left between us. But it wasn't just the absence. It was the lies, the silence, the betrayal hidden behind business trips and empty excuses. "Why now, James?" I asked quietly, trying to steady the lump in my throat. "After everything, why call me today?" There was a long pause. "Because I miss you. I miss us. I made a terrible mistake." His words were raw, filled with a vulnerability I hadn't heard in years. But I had changed. The woman who had waited faithfully, hoping for a miracle, was gone. "James," I said softly but firmly, "it's not about missing me. It's about what you lost when you stopped being here. I'm not the same person you left behind." I could hear him swallow hard. "I want to fix this, Carol. I want to come home." Tears pricked my eyes. Not from relief, but from the realization that his timing no longer mattered. Healing wasn't a path we could walk together anymore, not on his terms. "I've started to find myself again," I told him. "I'm painting again. I've joined yoga classes, and I'm surrounded by friends who see me, not the version you tried to control." My voice grew steadier with each word, a quiet strength rising within me. There was silence on the other end, then a whisper. "I'm proud of you." I smiled, despite everything. "Thank you, James. But this is my journey now." I ended the call and placed the phone down gently. Outside, the late afternoon sun warmed the porch, the world bright and full of promise. For the first time in a long time, I felt free, ready to embrace the future on my own terms. The night air was crisp, carrying the scent of blooming jasmine as I stepped out onto my porch. The soft glow of the porch light illuminated the garden, where I had planted hydrangeas just weeks ago. My small symbol of hope, growing strong amidst the storm of the past months. For years, I had lived for others, a devoted wife, a mother, a caretaker of a perfect facade. But tonight, I was beginning to live for myself. After hanging up the phone, I felt a wave of emotions. Relief, sadness, but most of all, empowerment. James's late apology was nothing more than an echo in a life I was ready to reclaim. His absence during our 20th anniversary was a painful chapter, but it was also the closing of a book that no longer served me. I poured myself a glass of iced tea, sweetened just the way I liked it, and sank into my favorite rocking chair. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet, the kind of stillness that invites reflection. I thought about the journey ahead. Rebuilding wasn't going to be easy. There would be days of doubt, moments when loneliness crept in. But with every brushstroke of paint on my canvases and every yoga session at the community center, I was stitching together the fabric of a new life. Friends like Marcia reminded me daily that I wasn't alone. Their voices became lifelines, urging me forward when I faltered. I was rediscovering passions I had long buried. My love for art, my curiosity for new experiences, and most importantly, my worth beyond any relationship. Tomorrow, I plan to attend a local art show where I'd display my paintings for the first time in years. It wasn't just about the art. It was about claiming space in a world that had tried to shrink me. As the stars emerged one by one, I whispered a promise to myself. This is just the beginning. I will find joy again, on my own terms. And in that quiet moment, I knew something profound. Sometimes, losing everything is what it takes to finally find yourself.